SEO to GEO, the hot topic of the day for sure. I'll start by giving a bit of introduction about myself. I'm wearing the same t-shirt, so it's easy to recognize me if you get confused. I am the founder and CEO of Azoma. Before Azoma, I spent 6 years at Amazon in the various roles in the company. Most relevant to this discussion is that I was responsible for the customer browse experience for the launch of Amazon Singapore. So I worked in search, making sure the customers had a great experience when searching and discovering products on Amazon. I was educated at Mila, the Global Artificial Intelligence Institute in Quebec, and still have ties with Canada today. I'm in Toronto. I'm the host of The New Frontier, the Answer Optimization podcast. So check that out on Spotify or Apple if you're interested in what we discussed today. And I talk at various events. And yeah, a bit about the company before we get going, so you can see why I'm talking to you today. We help global brands and retailers get mentioned in AI search. We're working with the likes of L'Occitane, Canadian Tire, Arla, Zappos, David, and a few of these I will bring into the conversation today to show you how we're helping these brands to get mentioned in ChatGPT, in Google Gemini, in Amazon Rufus, etc., etc. So the AI discovery shift. Today, we are in a similar inflection point to the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, Google went from having roughly 10% of Yahoo search volume to 10 times it over a couple of years. This previous shift, which was done because of what is called the PageRank algorithm, a traditional AI algorithm, we saw winners. One of the most notable winners would be TripAdvisor. They hit 15 billion their market cap. In order to win and optimize this algorithm, they have hundreds of thousands of relevant landing pages. They gave awards as backlinks to all of their hotels and restaurants, and basically understood how the page rank algorithm works. So you needed to have these backlinks pointing you towards the page. And by answering lots of customer queries about where to go, best restaurants in London or best hotels in Toronto, they became a big winner. But there were also big losers. So I'm not sure if anyone here has heard of Virtual Tourist. Normally when I give these presentations, nobody ever has. They actually started the year before TripAdvisor and they shut down in 2017. Of course, there are many reasons why some businesses win and some businesses lose. But if you listen to the CEO of TripAdvisor, as I have on podcast, he will talk about that the SEO strategy was absolutely critical for day one to drive organic traffic. I think they got 200 million monthly organic visitors at their peak. And today, we're now in the middle of a new shift. Last month, according to Eddie Q, the senior VP at Apple, Google search volume actually went down the first time in 20 years during their antitrust trial that they did a few months back. And the reason that Google search volume is going down is because people are using ChatGPT, they're using Perplexity, they're moving away from traditional Google. 60% of consumers have replaced traditional search engines with Gen AI tools for products and service recommendations. This is according to our friends at Capgemini. This is off marketplaces. This is in ChatGPT and Perplexity, but it's also on marketplaces. It's through Amazon Rufus. It's through Walmart Sparky. LLM is becoming the new default for how people discover and products and services. And here's some of the latest stats. Indeed, I finalized this presentation yesterday. I always like to have the latest stats on here. And this is staggering, right? So on Prime Day, which happened a month or so ago, 44% of Gen Z use ChatGPT, 46% use Amazon Rufus, their AI search engine bot, which is in this corner of the navigation bar. And even the baby boomers are adopting this, a quarter of them on ChatGPT and 20%, 17% on Amazon Rufus. Google itself is having to adapt to this changing landscape. Many of you have probably felt this. 60% of Google searches now end without a click. And the result of that is, as Mark alluded to, these kind of year-over-year cost increases to doing business on Google. So overall, 13% increase in paid, but some industries, and maybe some of you who are in those impacted industries, beauty and personal care up 60%, education and instruction up 42%, shopping up 34%. So by the nature of having more AI overviews, the remaining clicks that you can get are getting more expensive. And this is a real problem for marketers as the cost of acquisition is increasing and people need to go to new channels in order to acquire customers sustainably for the business. And that is what GEO is. And last week we saw a massive example of this. Monday.com lost 40% in market cap after admitting basically this is happening, that the Google click-through rate has collapsed. And despite kind of growing year on year by 30%, saw this massive drop in market cap. So I think before going on, I think it's important to outline why LLM-based search and AI-based search is actually different from what we've seen before. And it's a fundamental different technology, and that's one of the key messages that I'm going to try and get across today. But just to explain why this is a different technology, and this is taken from the Amazon Science paper on Cosmo. Cosmo is LLM, large language model they put in the back end of their search engine. And the way that an LLM works is they display in their science papers, a user prompt goes into the LLM, best running shoes for men. This is then broken down into tokens, as LLM work on the basis of numbers, it's not words, so it's broken down into tokens. That relationship between, what a word is and what a token is about 1.5 tokens per word. So it's not a one-to-one relationship, it's a bit of a black box. Then that tokenized response is compared with all of the world knowledge that the LLMs are trained upon. They've ingested much of the world's data. It also ingests the user behavior, the data they have on the users, and then out comes the output. So fundamentally, this is a different technology from what we were working with before. And I can tell you, someone who worked in search in Amazon, what we were doing before is looking at stack ranking keywords based on signals. So you put in running shoe, and you're going, what is the best running shoe based on conversion, based on sales velocity, based on in-stock, based on price, based on reviews. Maybe we had 20 or 30 signals, which would then determine the order for any one keyword. This is a totally different technology, as I said, because the LLMs have a world knowledge. They also understand the customer and that their specific use case and like their past behavior. In goes a prompt, and then out comes the output. So we're talking about a fundamental technology shift. I'm sure everyone here has used ChatGPT and experienced it for themselves, but that's why it's so different. So the good news about this shift, painting quite a dark and scary picture, but the good news is that the AI traffic brings higher intent visitors. This is our own data from all of our customers across their GA4s. And we see that customers coming from ChatGPT are 5x higher intent than those coming from Google. Why is this the case? Because the customers are doing research within the AI tools. The average user in an AI tool are asked a follow-up question 50% of the time on each prompt. So you would ask, what's the best running shoe? It would give you a list of responses, and you go, oh, I'm overweight. I need more support. What's the best running shoe for someone who is overweight, whatever it would be, right? And therefore, when they eventually land on your page, they're coming with more knowledge and a higher intent to buy. And we've seen that play out in the data. So that's some good news amongst the search apocalypse that we build at the front of the webinar. The second piece of good news from NP Digital, and I saw there's some NP Digital folks listening today, so thank you for the survey that you guys did, is that GEO adoption or Generative Engine Optimization adoption is actually quite limited so far. Interestingly, it's larger in medium and enterprise businesses than it is in small businesses, which may be counterintuitive, but also maybe they've got more resources and time to think about this stuff and bigger teams. But still, we're in the early days of this. So the fact that you're on this webinar, the fact that you're thinking about this means that you're ahead of the curve of your competition, at least for now. So that is some good news. And the space is moving so quickly that I always like to reflect on what's just happened. So we've just seen the GPT-5 launch. Probably everyone here has played with it now. It's been the kind of default model for about a week or so. There's been some key changes in GPT-5. I try and stay away from the hype and saying, oh, this is revolutionizing everything. To me, it's a little bit like iPhones now. To bring out the new iPhone isn't that different from the old iPhone. But there are some big differences in GPT-5 beyond just the hype stuff, which is they have integrated reasoning models to be part of the default. So ChatGPT will now choose, based on your query, which model to use. Should it use a normal LLM? Should it use a reasoning model? And Sam Altman himself tweeted this, said that for the plus users, which many of us are, I am, now a quarter of the responses are on reasoning models, up from 7%. And from free users, it's gone from less than 1% to 7%. So reasoning models are now becoming bigger. What does this mean? A reasoning model, and I used ChatGPT to help me visualize this. And actually, in my view, the response from ChatGPT is almost more interesting than the graph, the infographic they put together. But with a reasoning model, ChatGPT will run tens of similar prompts when you put in a question. It will rephrase it slightly. It will run competitive prompts. So if you say, why is Nike the best running shoe? It may also run a prompt in the background about why Adidas is the best running shoe. So it will run tens of similar prompts, and they will in total look at hundreds of sources. And if you open up the reasoning, you can see this happening, as you can see on the left. It will fan out the queries, related queries, rephrasing your queries, competitive queries, sub-queries. You look at the context. Sometimes it will try and work out because we put in bad spelling or grammar. It'll try and rephrase it in better spelling, grammar, and put that in as well. And it will then compose all of that and come to the final answer. So my point I had a few slides ago about how LLMs are different to traditional search. I think this is even more important to think about in the world of reasoning models, which is the new default in ChatGPT. The second thing that they launched, which I personally found really interesting, is this focus on health. There's a big focus on health from the announcement. And I think what this is going to have the impact of is people trusting AI more and more. So already many of us will be using AI to ask questions about our health, about mental health, physical health, the most intimate questions that we have. And there's been studies showing that people trust AI more than in-store staff in shopping, for example. And I think this high trust of AI, which will increase as people delve in more and more of their deepest and darkest fears and secrets into it, means that when it's recommending you a running shoe, you're going to trust it even more than what you might do previously. What's over the horizon? And then obviously I'm going to talk about how we can get our brands mentioned by all of this stuff. But the first one is memory. So this is a quote from Sam Altman. Memory is my favorite feature we've launched this year. I love memory in ChatGPT. It points to where we will go with the product. You'll have this entity that gets to know you, that connects with all your stuff, that is proactively helping you. It won't just be that you send a message and it sends you one back. It will be running in the background. It will know when to send you a message or go do something on your behalf. It will be integrated on every service you use. You'll just have this thing running with you throughout your life. So this is a quote he gave a couple months back in San Francisco. And I think it points to where the vision of ChatGPT is of this super assistant. And actually, initially, the original code base of ChatGPT is SA, standing for super assistant. And when they started this whole thing off, they're trying to build a super assistant. And now you can see how this will eventually, I'm sure in a year or two, we'll be using it as an assistant. The second thing that's going to happen on the horizon is the AI browsers. So this is Comet. Comet is Perplexity's browser, but OpenAI have one. Google are going to launch a new one. And with the AI browsers, you will have this AI agent on the right-hand side of your screen. I'm sure it'll be in every Zoom call. They'll be everywhere. And it'll be able to take action for you. You'll be able to put stuff in like book me a demo for Azoma when I'm next free. It will go into your calendar. It will look at when you're free. It will then go and book a demo, and you will not have to take those actions and click through and do stuff. So we're going to see more and more people using agentic browsers. If I was to put a timeline on this, I'd say by the end of the year, I'm sure this agentic browser will be the new way that we would interface with the internet. This transition is not just happening on standalone platforms. It's going to happen everywhere. And I love this quote from Harry Vasudev, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, who is the CTO of Walmart. He says that they expect the search bar and the conventional way of searching for items to be replaced by this multimodal interface in Sparky. Sparky will be something that looks at your pantry and makes via video and helps you to make decisions. It will be done through voice. Their goal is to mirror normal shopping behavior. Walmart coming out to say they're deprecating the search bar is pretty revolutionary, but I think that's the direction that we're going to see all of this stuff heading in. And the last one, which we can never forget, is Apple. Apple have been rumored to be building their own AI answer engine. Obviously, Apple have the best distribution in this. Siri is rubbish. I personally don't use it, but you can imagine if Apple do nail this agent that's on your phone, on your computer, interacting with every aspect of your life, you can imagine how impactful that will be. And yeah, there's been rumors that they are experimenting in this space. And Tim Cook has said that this is an all hands, I think, in Q1. We've already been first. There was PC before the Mac. There were smartphones before the iPhone. This is how I feel about AI. But they're at least aiming to come in swinging big at some point. But we haven't seen it yet. But you don't want to discount Apple, I think, in this race. Cool.
So Max, what we're going to do is now come back in. We've had a few questions, so
Let's do it. Yeah.
we'll way through there. So Richard, interested in how leveraging LLMs differs between brands versus sellers of brands. For example, Nike versus Sports Direct. Is that something you'll touch upon? Any thoughts there, Max?
We work with both. So we work with major brands like David Protein, and we work with retailers like Zappos and Canadian Tire. So we've had experience in both. I think in many ways, the principle is similar, which is both of them want to get their store or brand mentioned in ChatGPT, which is what we help them with. If you're Zappos, you want to be mentioned. And if you're Nike, you want to be mentioned. And equally, we're trying to get their individual product listings into the ChatGPT shopping experience. So I'll show you that when I do the demo. So we work with both. We don't just work with eCommerce. We work with B2B. We work with health and law and insurance and all sorts. So I think there's obviously slight nuances and differences, and every customer is different, but broadly, like the principles I'm going to talk about in a minute, will be the same.
Okay, very good. Tom's asked a question. When you say GEO adoption, what qualifies companies to have adopted GEO?
That's a great question. You're going to have to ask NP Digital. I shamelessly stole this from them. They published a report where they surveyed people. I think they just surveyed them and said, are you thinking about GEO? Have you adopted a software or an agency? I don't know, but that was from them.
I took it pretty much as that as well. Okay, so then it keeps moving now. Okay, what about privacy? As ChatGPT gets to know you and your brands better, they didn't have the privacy policies in place to keep up with the rate of how people and brands are using and confiding in it, and conversations will be shared. Is this right?
So they don't share any of their data. So nothing is shared at the moment. Obviously, there is a concern, which is maybe above my pay grade. They do have lots of intimate data on all of us, asking about our health concerns and whatnot. What happens if someone does a Freedom of Information Act? I'm not a legal expert. I do think that in a similar way to Google has a lot of intimate information about us all, ChatGPT and OpenAI will now have that. So is it concerning? Yes. But on the flip side, is it a fantastic thing that if you have some bump on you and you take a photo and you send it to ChatGPT and you can get a pretty accurate medical response off the bat? It's an amazing thing, and I think it's going to benefit lots of people across the world. Those without access to doctors, those of us with busy lives who don't want to try to book an appointment on the NHS. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that's good. We're all guessing to an extent, but you're more than us, so your guess is probably better. Here's a good one from Josie. How do you think AI GEO will impact brands where the current distribution is through aggregators, e.g. price comparison websites?
So look, we work with price comparison websites as well. We work with all of the above. And I would say that the principles that I'm going to talk through in a minute, I think is a good structure for everyone. But obviously there's nuances, and we're happy to book a demo. We're happy to talk to you about the nuances.
Very good. Okay. I'll hand back to you now. I don't want to break you straight too much. There are other questions I'll try and pick out.
This is our 4-step process on how to get mentioned in AI search. And as I said, we've been thinking about this for 3 years now. Me and my co-founder launched a business back in 2022. My co-founder is a PhD and postdoc in AI, and we were thinking about how can you optimize for LLMs before ChatGPT even launched, because we believe this is going to be the future of search. So these are the 4 things that are working for our customers. It's pretty simple, hopefully, and we'll dive into all of this in the second half of the presentation. So the first thing is to understand what questions your customers are asking, and then create optimized content that answers these questions. Pretty simple. We're going to talk about some case studies, and we're going to talk about some nuances and the rest of it. But broadly, that's point number 1. Point number 2 is identify the sources that AI cites for the topics that matter to you and get featured in those sources. Again, we're gonna talk about what is AI cite. We're going to talk about how you can do that, but broadly, that's a headline strategy. Number 3, and I'm not going to talk about this today, but do a technical audit and then make sure the LLMs can read your website. We'll do a free audit for anyone on the call. Book a demo with us, say you're from the School of Marketing. We'll give you that free audit and we'll tell you if they can or not. That's hopefully pretty simple. And then number 4 is the new metric that you should be thinking about is AI visibility or share of voice. That's what I would recommend tracking to see how often your brand is mentioned in these AI searches. And within that, you can measure sentiment and the rest of it. But broadly, those are my 4 steps of how you think about increasing your share of mentions in AI search. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how we approach GEO at Azoma. As I said, we've been doing this for 3 years. I hope it's helpful. And then I'm going to run through some details and kind of case studies and go into more depth on all of those things. So I'm going to jump to a demo in a second, and I think that will just help to contextualize our thinking around this and how we've been approaching this for customers. We've got 2 patents in this space. The first patent looks at how we model out how people are talking to these AI platforms by building digital twins of your target audience and collecting responses from the AI platform and basically predicting what are the questions people are asking. And into that, we bring in how the AI scrape the internet in terms of their web traffic that ChatGPT goes to scrape the internet for specific topics. So that's how we understand how people are asking questions. And then the second patent that we have is actually generating optimized content for LLMs. We look at the demographics, we look at conversion rates, we look at the top listings or responses from the AI engines. So I'm gonna jump into the demo. This is just to illustrate how we're thinking about it. So for our customers, it starts with them telling us what topic they are interested in being visible for. Clarence, who are not a customer of ours, but in this demo, want to be visible for luxury for skincare and also plant-based skincare. As I mentioned from the patent, we will then send hundreds of thousands of prompts to the AI engines. The customer will tell us which AI engines they want to be visible for. We will then send all of these prompts to the AI engines, and we do that modeling the target demographic, which is here, the target persona that the AI engines are trying to optimize for. So we will message the LLMs from them. We will monitor the responses the LLM gives. We'll monitor the web traffic that the LLM goes to in order to find those responses. And we have a predictive model to understand how that target demographic is actually speaking to those LLMs. We then pivot that conversation to show you what are the key topics that people care about. So in the category of skincare, for example, the number 1 topic people care about is product effectiveness, and we'll show you kind of those questions there. Then ingredients and formulation, then application use tips, and we'll show you in terms of the percentages of people talking about each topic and the specific questions. We'll show you what is coming up in GPT shopping results, what are the current products that ChatGPT is recommending, and what are the questions that activate the shopping overviews. We show you the key citations of where AI is getting its responses from. So normally, as I'll talk about in a minute, Reddit and Wikipedia are number 1 and 2, but we'll show you all of the citations that the AI is drawing upon to answer these questions, and that can inform your PR strategy. We show you how your brand sentiment is and your share of voice in AI engines. And then we get into actually moving the needle for customers. So this is doing stuff like fixing the robot text, LLM text schema on your website and optimizing that, which you can generate here, generating blogs or recipes or information pages, generating FAQs. And we can also do the product listings as well. So we can integrate for e-commerce into Amazon or your PIM, whatever it is, and generate visual and written assets at scale. So that's hopefully an explanation of our product, which should help provide context to this next bit of how do we do the GEO optimized content. So as you saw from that, the key thing is on-trend content. That's what we've seen is working from customers. You need to work out what are your customers actually asking, and then generate content which answers that. For example, with Winn-Dixie, who are a grocer out in Florida, we have generated hundreds of recipes for them in their brand guidelines and style and everything else, as you can see here, but on highly trending topics that people are asking for. And the result of that is that when people are asking about recipes, Winn-Dixie is being cited. And we've seen their share of mentions has gone up 5x, basically from fixing the foundations of their website, but also then generating on-trend and relevant content in a way that suited them, which is, in this case, recipes. The next thing you need to do in your content is ensure that you address what they call subjective product needs. So this is pulling from Amazon Science, their paper on Rufus, the LLM that we've discussed. So they talk about the 5 facets of subjective product needs that you need to talk about in order to get your content mentioned in AI search. So you need to talk about the subjective property. You need to talk about the event that it's used for, the activity that it's used for, the goal or the purpose it's used for, and then the audience. So in all of the blogs, in all of the recipes, in all of the product listings that you generate, hitting these subjective product needs, obviously this is specifically for Rufus, but in our experience, you need to do that for all the LLMs, and that can help to make your content more surfaceable. The next things are FAQs. As you saw, we generate FAQs. We've done this on our own website. We get lots and lots of inbound from ChatGPT, as you can imagine. FAQs are really powerful. The LLMs absolutely love FAQs. So if you can work out what the top questions people are asking in the AI engines and put FAQs on your pages, on every page, ideally, you're going to increase your traffic there. That's something that we have made good use of with FAQs, such as how can I get my product featured in ChatGPT shopping, etc., etc. The next piece is testimonials. I have seen in ChatGPT the testimonials that we have on our website be featured in why you should choose Azoma. So make sure you get those testimonials. AI likes testimonials. The next one for content is tables. So Microsoft actually did a study on this about how LLMs like tables, and they saw that they improved LLM performance in some measurement that is beyond my pay grade. Tab fact is up 2.3%, hybrid QA is up 2.13%, etc., etc. But it's something that we've seen time again for customers. If you generate blog content with tables in it, LLMs love pulling that in, and there's science that actually backs this up beyond just all the anecdotes that I've seen. So make sure you have tables in your blogs or whatever content you're putting together on your website. So those are my tips in terms of generating optimized content for LLMs. And the second thing is to get mentioned in the cited sources. As you saw, we help people identify the tool. So across millions of answer engine responses that we've collected in the methodology that I showed you, we've seen that ChatGPT loves Wikipedia, Reddit, and YouTube as the three biggest. And then there's the other stuff, and I'll go into some examples in a second, but it will normally be domain-specific stuff. And then for Google AI views, Wikipedia is smaller, but then YouTube and Reddit is larger. And then also they use LinkedIn, interestingly, and Quora. So those are the places that you want to be cited in general to be visible on ChatGPT and Google AI views. I've also split this out between all queries and commerce, because we have commerce customers. And interestingly, again, like every category, this split is going to change slightly, but in commerce, the main thing that comes in is Amazon. So lots of Amazon listings are cited in ChatGPT, as we've seen across millions of responses. So important to optimize your Amazon listings if you want to get your brand mentioned in ChatGPT, if you're in e-commerce and you want to put this stuff in your Amazon listing in order to enable that to happen. So then how do you get mentioned on Reddit? The white hat and let's say Reddit approved way that you can do this is what we call employee generated Reddit comments. So this is Max. He's one of our AI visibility engineers at Azoma. We obviously use our own tool for ourselves, and I've put in some examples from what we've done with our own software. But you want to be commenting on the key Reddit posts which are influencing the AI engines. And here's an example of what we did. And you can see here, Max says that very clearly upfront, I work for Azoma, so full transparency. And then he gives some value. And we've seen that this comment helps increase our share of mentions in AI search. So you don't want to go against Wikipedia or Reddit's terms of service, but there are ways of doing things which are inside their terms of service, which is absolutely fine. And employee Reddit comments is one such way of doing this. And then, I wanted to break down the other section. So this is a little bit of a case study of one of our customers, David Protein. And you'll see that apart from Wikipedia and Reddit, like in that big other section, this will be very domain specific, but in the protein space, in the last week, we've seen lots of, and this is pretty typical, lots of stuff on specific blogs and whatnot for protein. So Barb and The Best for Everything and Eat This. These are all specific websites in the protein space, and they're getting cited heavily. So I think the main point here is that with traditional SEO, everyone knows you want to rank number one. That's your key goal. If you're in the top three, you're going to win. In AI, AEO, or answer engine optimization, what you really want is broad mentions across lots of these places. And once you know what are these small blogs or whatever that are influencing the AI engines, it's pretty easy to go ask them to feature you as well. If Barbend is doing the best low sugar protein bars, it's not going to cost much for you to go and add data protein in there, in addition to Grenade and whatever else they've got in there already. So that's a key thing that you want to do in terms of helping your citations. The next one is technical foundations. As I said, we're very happy in partnership with the School of Marketing to give you guys a free technical audit. So you can scan the QR code there and we'll give you the free technical audit on your website, which is your schemas, your robot.txt and LLM.txt. Technical audit is fixing the foundations, but really number 1 and 2 is the critical things here, which is create optimized content, answering questions that your customers are answering, and be in the sources which AI is citing. So yeah, technical audit, obviously important, but I think the first 2 are definitely the main 2 to go beyond just the mere basic. And then the last one, I think is important to track your share of voice. This is a key metric. As I showed you how we help our customers, tracking your share of voice, tracking your share of mentions. Again, this is what we do. It's been helpful for customers to move the needle. Obviously, the output metric is how many visitors you're getting from ChatGPT. And that's something you can measure and see like a return of investment. You do want to know where you are and how often you're being mentioned. I think that's a key thing to measure these days. And then I will close with my number 1 FAQ that I'm always asked by customers, by audience members. So I thought I'd put some slides in maybe to get ahead of some of these questions that I can't see the chat but might already be there, which is, this is all great. Maybe you're not as AI enthusiast as me. I'm convinced, obviously, this is the future, hence expanding the business. But what about pay-per-click advertising? And just for some context, I remember early on in our business in 23, we got investment by eBay Ventures, and we were in San Antonio in the eBay offices. And I remember sitting down with the VPs at eBay, and they were telling me, no, Max, there'll never be LLMs on websites like eBay, Amazon, because they're never going to give away their ads model. And lo and behold, it's happened. I always think that having worked at Amazon, the default is going to be what's best for the customer. And whoever gives the best customer experience is going to win. And in my view, pay-per-click advertising is not in the best interest of the customer, and therefore people who do that will not win. A few quotes that I will share with you from our friend Sam. The first one on Lex Friedman was maybe a year or so ago. He said he hates ads as an aesthetic choice. I like that people pay for ChatGPT and knows the answers they're getting are not influenced by advertisers. It's also easy to think about dystopian visions of the future where you ask ChatGPT something and it says, oh, here's how you should think about it and buy a product. And then a few months back, they obviously need to monetize somehow. And he talked about how they monetize. And he said that, again, he repeated this, I don't like traditional ads, but we could do something like an affiliate fee. So they would charge everyone 2% from ChatGPT if they found you from there. So based on what he says, I think that's more likely the direction that they go in. I really do believe, as I've said for a long time, that kind of the 10 blue links is going to look very 2010s when we look back in 50 years of how people discover stuff. And the AI answer engines will just give you the answer. And the monetization will be affiliates, something different. Similar thing from the chief business officer in Perplexity, who again was on a podcast, and he said, when I use DoorDash, I type in best Thai food and I have zero confidence that the first result is actually what's the smartest algorithm at DoorDash thinks is the best Thai food. It's probably some merchant that is paying a higher rate. We're being manipulated everywhere. We buy things. Their purpose at Perplexity is to answer people's questions. We really want to be the product that people use when they have to make important decisions. When it's a high consideration purchase, ones where you want to do the most research, be most informed, that's their focus. Again, they talk about the business model being a subscription, a $20 a month subscription, and that they can't compromise on user trust. And that even doing a small experiment that they did with ads can tarnish you. So I think, again, there's going to be many ways that people can discover products in the future. You can do it on ChatGPT, on Gemini, on Perplexity, on Claude. But I believe that those who experiment with ads, let's say Gemini does ads, people just continue to move somewhere else that is where they feel they trust the answers. And another one to illustrate that point. The final slide here is on Amazon Rufus. We talked a bit about the LLMs and marketplaces. So Amazon Rufus have experimented with sponsored questions. So when you land on a product and you ask them questions, if you're Lego or Apple, you can pay to have a specific question. So I think this is more of an elegant solution that customers using ChatGPT or Perplexity will ask their questions. and maybe the brands will pay for a sponsored follow-up prompt, but the answer itself will not be an ad. The answer itself will be what the AI engine thinks is the best answer for customers. So that's how I think it could work. But yeah, thank you. Please book a demo with our team if you're interested in finding out more, and happy to take the questions.
Wow, so we've got lots of questions. So I'm just going to try and pick through, because there's a few that have maybe been answered and a few that are sort of slightly duplicates. Do you think GPT Perplexity may roll out a commercial role in the future to recommend products?
Yeah, I often have this discussion, which is like, how do these guys monetize? And actually, they have a great way of monetizing. First of all, they're all playing their subscription-based model. Perplexity is $1 billion company on subscriptions alone. And I think if you imagine where this is going to go, you'll have a $20 subscription, which will just mean that you don't run out of tokens, which is pay to play, I think, in this world, and people will do that. You'll have a $200 a month subscription for the advanced research. And then you may have the $2,000 a month subscription for this highly advanced, all intelligent AI, which would basically function as a PhD and can do tasks agentically, blah, blah, blah. So I think you can imagine a world where you have multiple tiers. Some of these are very expensive. Secondly, OpenAI are doing consulting. I think they're tens of $1 million consulting gigs that they're doing. And then finally, they have their API. So lots of people, including us, are building on top of API. So they have good revenue models, which do not include advertising. So why would they risk everyone going to Claude or Perplexity because they put ads and ruin their product? I'm not convinced they will do it. Again, that's just me. I don't know. But I think they have plenty of paths to monetization without advertising.
Yeah, that's fair. So Nabila asks, how can you track how much your brand is being mentioned? I think you outlined that quite well. It's the hundreds of thousands of prompts to drive out that analysis. I'm just trying to get as much goodies as possible. So this is a good one from Katie. We're seeing a shift from traditional SEO initiatives being rebranded as GEO. What are the real differences between SEO and GEO? Is GEO simply a more complex area on top of SEO, or does it represent a fundamental evolution? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll let you say that.
It's a few tweaks. No, I'm joking. It's a fundamental evolution for sure. And the argument I would make is what you're optimizing for a fundamentally different technology. Back in the day, as I said, I did this from the inside of Amazon. You're looking at various signals on keyword ranking, and Google had the PageRank algorithm. We discussed that, of what other site linked to this page, and it's all based on, similar to Amazon, but backlinks being a major one rather than the signals of sales velocity or whatever else. This is a totally different technology. This is the biggest technology shift. Many people will say since electricity, since fire. This is a big shift. And therefore, you need to have more than just the traditional SEO techniques. And one interesting question that we always get asked by our customers is, where does this sit in the business? Part one of what I discussed of the strategy of creating optimized content, which maybe sits within SEO, maybe sits within the product content teams of your e-commerce, will sit in different places for different people. And then part two is getting Cited, which is traditionally sat in PR. How do you restructure the organizations to do this? Do you need to expand the SEO teams? These are questions that we talk to our customers about. So I think it not only requires different technology, different software, but also different organization structure would be my thought.
Makes sense. It is that big a transformation. Technical question from Richard, which I think might be partly answered low down, but let's take get your take, Max. When you say LLMs can read your website, do you mean during their training phase, or do they pull live data from Bing's index or wherever?
Both. So both. This is a really good point. I normally have this in my presentations, and because I remade this one, I don't have this here, but I normally have a slide about the training data. OpenAI have partnerships with a bunch of organizations, News Corp and The Atlantic, and et cetera, for which they train their new models. We have a blog about this on our website. You want to be in the training data. If you want to be in GPT-6, you need to be featured in these places where they have these partnerships to train the models. But obviously, they only release a new model every 6 months or a year or so. So that's more of a longer term play. In the short term, what we've seen, and we may do an insight on this soon on our website, is that actually the LLMs, they will go and scrape the internet live for basically every query, and they bias towards recency versus historic stuff, which is the opposite to traditional SEO, where you build up your domain authority over time. Here, they're going and finding the latest articles or blogs or whatever, and they're putting that into the answer. So it's easier to move the needle. And in the David Protein example, you want to be featured on Barbend, right? Barbend is being featured multiple times in the last week. It's some small blog. Similarly, like garage gym reviews, and again, it's some like niche site, but for the protein space, it's where ChatGPT is pulling from, and you need to get yourself there. And if you do, as we've had help David Protein, they'll be pulled up more in AI.
Very good. Okay, so I've got at least 20 questions, so we may not get to all of them, but we'll do our best. And I've just got to the point where Richie said, when booking a demo, just quote SOM. So I just want to say thank you, Max, for making sure everyone who's associated with SOM gets a freebie there. And of course, also your podcast as well. But here's one. Do you see the role of websites changing, i.e. shifting to more dynamic content anchored in audience questions in order to rank in GEO?
Yeah, you don't want to do stuff which LLMs can't read. So there's some dynamic elements of websites the LLMs actually can't even read. So maybe they will one day, but they can read text, and they're lazy. And they're lazy because obviously this is super expensive. This is a much more expensive way and GPU heavy way of running things than traditional search. So I think what we've been helping customers with is the FAQs, making sure you have testimonials, FAQs, and tables. Those kind of are the three high-level things that work, and I'd encourage people to think about that. And then, happy to talk about specifics as well. Me or my team happy to book a demo and we can talk about specifics.
And it's just, you make it sound simple. I'm absolutely sure it's not. But so anyway, here we go. A couple of questions about video versus text. I think it was one in recommendations, but also a broader question from Wagner. Hi, Wagner. How do AI understand content from videos?
They love YouTube. So especially Gemini, which is unsurprising given that Google obviously own YouTube. So YouTube is a real source where you can go and play and win. Making videos. So for us, I don't know what business she's in, but for us, we could say how to get your brand mentioned, ChatGPT, how to do this. Answering the questions that customers have as 5-10 minute YouTube videos is a really powerful way to get cited by AI.
Okay, good tip. Follows into Carl's question quite well. What about bloat? With this much content produced, is bloat even a thing like with SEO?
We want to be careful to not be putting out AI slop. I think it's very easy to just generate thousands of blogs on ChatGPT and they're complete crap and the LLMs won't pick them up.
It's not just throwing crap at a wall. It's not quantity. It's actually precision.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we help, like in the example of SEG, we've done hundreds of recipes. Obviously we could do thousands, right? But they don't penalize you necessarily to put out content. But really the point is the quantity is good. It's in their brand guidelines. It's short. It's slick. It looks human, even though obviously it's AI generated, but it is not done in with the M dashes at all. It's not obvious ChatGPT rubbish. And therefore that does get surfaced in LLMs.
Okay, so here's another one from Duke. Thanks, Duke. Do we not run the risk of creating content and updating our web pages for LLMs instead of customers? I remember similar trend in early 2000s, black hat and white hat SEO. So this is a little bit about we're at an inflection point and we're having to walk and chew gum.
I've got a hot take on this, which is that LLMs are more intelligent than humans. And actually, they're trying to mirror human activity. So what is good for humans is good for LLMs. This is my firm belief, right? Everything we generate is good for humans and LLMs. And if you think about those recipes example, LLMs are ultimately trying to find stuff which is good for humans. You want to be answering the questions that people are asking. That's what we help people do. You want to be keeping it short, but putting it in tablet formation and all of that stuff. You want to be talking about the audience, the goal they have, all of the subjective product needs that I talked about as well. So I think if someone is telling you like, oh, there's a massive difference between what LLMs want and what humans want, I don't agree. And I think that gap is narrowing because these engines are getting smarter and they're trying to find the best content for their users. By creating great content for their users, you're creating great content for the LLMs as well.
Makes sense. That's perhaps one thing we can be happy for, that the content.
Yeah, again, from my time at Amazon, sellers used to stuff keywords in. So their product listings read in a ridiculous way because they're trying to get all these keywords in the product listings. That's how you used to win on the old way in Amazon. That doesn't work anymore. And now you need to talk about the audience. You talk about the event they're using it for. You need to talk about the key benefit. If you're a human reading their product listing, you're like, okay, this actually is telling me stuff and it's not repetitive and I get it. And now I want to buy this product more.
Makes sense. So Nabil asks a question, how do you find the sources for AI citations? Is there a free tool? And then actually, Max, see if you agree, Max says, you will need software like Azoma. You can only get the citation data from sending lots of prompts. You talked about hundreds of things. You then
nothing good in life is free is my response to that. And
is it without that? I know you've got the patent there and all that, but without that huge volume of requests, will you actually get
Correct.
what we get?
I mean, we run up a big GPU cost because we're pinging the engines hundreds of thousands of times a day for each customer, and we're doing that through the front end. So we're doing that as a user, simulating a user into ChatGPT. It is obviously cheaper to ping the API, and it's obviously even cheaper just to do that a small number of times, just have very limited data and do that. So you get what you pay for. We try and help customers to find out how their customers are talking to the AI engines. We will do stuff like ping the AI with other questions not related to the customer. So in the protein example, we'll be talking about their target audience are like yuppies. So we'll be talking about fancy watches or whatever else his target ICP may be talking to ChatGPT. One of our customers is a good example, car insurance. Like they're targeting young insurers. If you ping ChatGPT, what's the best university for me? And then the second question is, what's the best car insurance? You get a different response to if you ping it and say, how can I rent a yacht? And then you ping it for car insurance. So you're going to get two different responses. So therefore, we ping it as the persona through the front end, and you get your simulation of what's informing it for your customer. And the proof is in the pudding. Like we derive results with it works. So obviously there's other tools there and they're cheaper, definitely cheaper ones than us, but do what you will.
Yeah, maybe you get what you pay for. Okay, just a few comments. Jonathan Pierce, lovely to see practical examples. Ed Nash, hi Ed, also said it's awesome. Jennifer, looking forward to meeting you at some point. Oh, there you go. I really enjoyed that, Max. Great session. So any advice on podcasts? We've covered that. That would be yours, Max. You might recommend some others, but we'll leave that for now.
Oh, yeah, mine's great. I used to listen.
Good one from Tom. Might we not create a race for content creation for content's sake, where content is artificially created just to game the system? I think you've covered it in terms of what's good for humans is good for LLMs, and also it's not just a spray and pray. I think this is a very technical, as indeed SEO is, a game of precision. Anything else you'd add there, Max?
Yeah, I would add that, for example, one of our customers, we did a pilot with now got an annual deal with. They're obviously interested in AI visibility as everyone is. Also, we're generating 2,000 SKUs from them a month in terms of the content for that. And they had their science team come and assess, and we saw the conversion go up. So people are buying this more, not just did we improve discoverability, but also the conversion's higher. It was a better process than what they were doing before, which was they had an agency who were using a keyword tool and they're stuffing keywords into their listings. They're probably using ChatGPT, probably weren't at the beginning, this agency, but probably now using ChatGPT for a lot of this with some keywords. And yeah, like the stuff that works well for LLMs also works for humans, and we've seen that play out in the conversion increases.
Yeah. Good question. Hi, Tamara. Good question. How important will it be to continue to invest in PR?
Hugely important to invest in PR. And I think, yeah, like PR, not just general PR, but like PR targeting where AI is drawing a point in your topics of interest. So yeah, huge, I agree.
Well, oh, interesting. Are there any vetting on political information with as related to AI engines? Whoa. Nice one, Matt.
Yeah, I have many views on this. I don't know how many views I want to share. My main point of this, which is AI is being disastrous for the political debate, but the AI algorithms we should be concerned about is not LLMs. It's the Facebook and Twitter and TikTok algorithms. I think they have, on both sides of the spectrum, increased polarization through rewarding content which outrages. And I think many of the things that we see today politically are driven by these algorithms. So yeah, AI is bad for politics. It's not, I think like LLMs are pretty benign. We're living the implications of the bad stuff now.
Very good. Navigated, you made it a very political point apolitically, like that. Okay, there's one here about, if I ask ChatGPT what GEO agency I should hire, will it recommend Azoma?
Should do. Okay. Yeah. If you're a target customer, it should do.
There you go. Yeah. Okay. There's lots of nice comments. Loving to see the practical examples, etc., etc. Really great session. Many thanks. Okay, thanks, Wendy. Yes. So what to say?
Thank you, Wendy.
I'm gonna leave the last word for you, Max, in terms of your encouragement to people to take all this seriously and act. But what remains for me, on behalf of Richie and myself and School of Marketing, to say thank you. I know you're like going crazy busy. It's off the hook. So thank you for giving us the time and the prep in it. I know it's more than a 5-minute job to create a presentation as well and prep for it. So thank you for giving your time and energy in what is clearly a red hot space. And I don't know if we've got any slots left to have the free trial with Max or to connect and get
free audit. Just get 10%.
to get the free audit. I think, Max, that's testimony to the session that those sessions have all been swallowed up pretty quickly. So thank you again. Lorraine Collier, a cracky session. I very much look forward to reviewing the deck, etc., etc. So lots of good comments. Final word from you, Max?
Yeah, thanks for listening. Such nice feedback. Yeah. If you're on the call, you're already, I guess, in the same mindset of this is going to be massive. There are lots of people out there I talk to who want to stick in the old ways. So the world is changing, and yeah, it's good to be with like-minded people.
Excellent. Couldn't agree more, Max. Thank you for giving your time again. Have a good rest of afternoon, everyone, if it's that time zone for now. And until next time, goodbye all.